Hello, Sunday morning in the UK. Not a very nice day. I'm doing this video to raise my consciousness because I've had a huge shock. I've had several shocks this week, three actually, from different sources, which had knocked me for six. So today I went out, drove into town, I thought, to get away from more shocks. And I had some more. Well, one actually. I got there and it's a town I used to live in, and I suddenly felt very peculiar. I do feel peculiar sometimes, but I went into a couple of supermarkets and there were spaces on the shelves like things hadn't been topped up, and apparently the van drivers are on a self-isolating, which I find hard to understand. So that was the first thing. I went in for two special things they hadn't got. The second thing was I thought, I don't know what I'm doing. I do have days, and it's probably old age, or I don't know. I don't think it's anything more serious than that, but it's something else. And as I was driving home, I thought, well, the energy has definitely changed. There's a huge shift recently. But was it the energy cosmically, in that town particularly, or was it the energy in me? Because I know I've had a huge consciousness change. So it was quite a dilemma. I got back straight to bed for a couple of hours, and I thought, well, the only way to clear this is to do a video, because that brings the energy through me and it puts me back in touch with me. I felt it was such a peculiar thing. So, but when I was in town, a place called Louth in Lincolnshire, it reminded me of a time I had a. I can't say he was a partner. He was a. I won't use the word, but the physical stuff. And we'd had a time together, and he went into a care home and eventually died. I've done a video about him called Life is But a Dream. I was suddenly reminded of him because, of course, it's where he lived and we had time together. And I suddenly thought that was a very strange time because I began to lose time. Well, not began, I have had several times like this. It's called dissociating, I think, which is a mental problem. No, it isn't, it's a psychic problem. But when he died, he was in a care home, they phoned me when I got back, where have you been for the last 3 hours? Now, I was missing for 3 hours. Missing somewhere. Where I was, I don't know. What I was doing, I don't know. I can remember one or two little instances I talked to somebody, things, everyday things. I thought, I know what I was doing. I was seeing him over. He was terrified. And I probably had gone back home or sat in the park or something, and I was doing my thing, seeing him across. Because since then, of course, he has communicated that where he is now is far better than it was here, which I do tend to believe. So that was the first thing, which has set me off thinking about other things that will happen to me. You may find this interesting. They're funny little stories, really. They're not relevant to anything except, I think, well, I do know what it. I do know what it is. I do know what it is because I was told quite recently the Arcturians, through one of their little speeches, and they're brilliant. They said that the personality, the soul. That's right. The soul chooses a personality in order to clear out a multidimensional. Now that may sound a bit technical and a bit heavy for some people, but what it means is that we have obviously different lifetimes and so forth, and lots of the times are not, we've left and we haven't healed or whatever we had to do. So the soul comes in, and I was a walk-in anyway, and throughout your life, and I have noticed this, I've changed so much. It seems as though I'm using a certain personality to cope with a certain situation, and I'm sure you've had experience of that. You think, why did I do that, or why did I be? But I've actually lost myself in the process. I haven't been here. If anyone's listening who's a psychiatrist or a psychologist, don't worry. I've got a book here called The Psychic Dimensions of Mental Health, and this is all answered. It's a psychic problem, actually. Depends where you're at. But I'll tell you a couple of little stories because I still haven't quite worked out what was happening. But one of them was, this is going to be a little bit unbelievable as well. When I was living in the town I'd just been to, a lovely library there I used to go to quite a lot, and I went in one day and the woman said, "We've got your book for you." I wasn't aware that I'd ordered a book, and it was called Splendour of the Sun, about Richard III. I said, but I haven't ordered it. It was very tatty and very old. It's out of print now, I think, although I've just bought one. And she said, well, it's got your library card number on it. And to this day, I cannot remember. I did not order it. But somebody, some spirit or somebody, ordered it for me. I had to read it about Richard III. And I did read it, and I remembered most of it, because I know one of my lifetimes I was actually Richard III, the Plantagenet King. There are so many things that have come through my mind and so forth. And it was though I had to read that book to awaken the memory. And then, of course, some years later, well, 2 or 3 years later, I don't know how much later, because quite a time probably, there was his funeral on the television. Somebody had found his grave in a car park, actually. He'd been there for 500 years. This woman was obviously very intuitive, and she realised where he was. They dug him up, and resurrected his skeleton, sort of thing. And apparently they found somebody with the same DNA who made a beautiful coffin out of cedar wood, I think. And the funeral was held, yes, it was held in Leicester Cathedral, although he was Yorkist, and there was some dispute as to whether he was going to be buried in York or Leicester. But it was, again, a very strange experience, because I was watching it and I could not stop crying. It was like part of me, part of the soul that had been him, was coming home. And I could actually feel his soul descend into the skeleton in the coffin and sort of breathe a sigh of relief. Home at last. It had his little prayer book on the top. It was so beautiful, but our royalty didn't go. Well, of course they wouldn't, because they're Tudors. It's a long historical story, but Richard was the last Plantagenet king. And of course I have been asked lots of times about his misdemeanours, which I don't remember, but I do know that I was him in that lifetime. So that's another one, that this book was ordered for me through some spirit, because I didn't order it and I had to read it for that purpose, I guess. That's all I can think of. If anyone's got any ideas, let me know. The second one was, this is quite recently, and it did worry me, because I thought, well, where am I? Where do I go? I'm not dying. I'm leaving, but going somewhere. And it was when I'd been to a herbalist for some medicine, herbal medicine, and she'd given me a bottle, and I'd taken it, and then I think I didn't get on with it, so I put it to one side. The next thing I know, I ring her up. I said, can I make another appointment to come back and see you? She said, well, I've already given you some. I said, when? She said, you picked it up last week from the herbalist, from the herbal shop, the health food shop. No, I haven't got a bottle here. She said, well, you picked it up because you signed for it. And she said, you phoned me and told me it upset you. Well, I didn't take it. I hadn't got the bottle. I hadn't got an empty bottle or a full bottle. And she was convinced I'd picked it up from this health food shop. And I knew where it was. I think I went back and asked them. Of course, they don't remember me. But to this day, where was I? So I think it's like, and I've had people, I think it's called a magical body. You have these different energy fields, and somebody may have experienced this. This is why I'm telling you, because it is worrying. So, well, where was I when all this was going on? You have different parts of yourself, it seems, and they can be scattered all over the place. I mean, I went to the theatre one day, and someone said to me, well, she said, where were you last night? Well, no, she said, oh, she said, you look different today, she said, and she looked me in the eye, she said, oh, she said, you seem different today. Where were you last night? We expected you to be on duty. I used to work at the theatre, the box office. And that unnerved me, because I knew I hadn't been there. And there's so many of these little instances. And the final one, this is going to make you think, now I haven't quite worked it out, because I do know that these instances were necessary for some part of me to experience, and I'm still here. I must come and go. You may see me one day in the US. So the last one I will tell you about was my daughter. I won't go into the saga of my daughter. I've done a video on it, and we've had anyway very, very difficult time. At one point, angels came and took her energy out of my womb. Now that's hard to believe, but I know it happened. And about 5 years later, wasn't in this bungalow. I was in a previous flat, and I was lying down, and I felt a kind of an energy leave. And as it was leaving, it said to me, "Take care of my daughter's name." So that had been a part of my motherhood when I was with her. And that has set me thinking, well, is that the part of me that she didn't like and has now left? And why? This is like an Agatha Christie mystery story, isn't it? Anyway, the time's almost up. I'll have to go. I just had to tell you all this because it will lift my energy, and it was on my mind, and I've explained it all to you, so you might enjoy it. And it might trigger off. I think we all do it. I mean, disassociating is quite common actually. People do sort of leave and come in, but it can be quite a serious mental illness, I think. Hopefully not. I'm still here. Anyway, God bless for now, dear ones. I'm going to have another lie down. Take care. Bye bye.